Welcome to the Baha'i House of Worship for North America. This sacred space, from its serene and welcoming gardens to its awe-inspiring auditorium, is a space open to all for prayer, quiet contemplation, and spiritual renewal. Here, all are welcome.
The first public mention of the Baha'i faith in America was in Chicago in 1893 at the World Parliament of Religions, an extension of the Chicago World's Fair. By the early 1900s, nearly 1,000 people in the United States and Canada had embraced the Baha'i faith. The members of this new religion wanted to demonstrate their devotion to God and build a temple for all people.
Chicago's location in the heart of the continent and the peaceful beauty of the site on the shores of Lake Michigan made it a natural choice for the first Baha'i house of worship in North America.
Abdul-Baha, the eldest son of Baha'u'llah, founder of the Baha'i faith, traveled from Palestine, now Israel, to North America in 1912. And while in Chicago, laid the cornerstone and was the guest of honor and featured speaker at the groundbreaking ceremony.
He set forth clear instructions for certain aspects that Baha'i houses of worship should include, and specified that women should be involved in the planning and development of it. During one of his addresses in Chicago at the time, Abdul-Baha said that Baha'u'llah had commanded that a place of worship be built so that all religions, races, and sects may come together within its universal shelter, that the proclamation of the oneness of mankind shall go forth from its open courts of holiness. Conceptual designs were offered by noted architects from across North America. But of all the designs, delegates to the 1920 National Baha'i Convention unanimously selected the design created by Louis Bourgeois, a French-Canadian architect who had studied at the legendary École des Beaux-Arts Academy of Architecture in Paris. Fulfilling Bourgeois' dream of creating a temple of light and unity, the House of Worship's lacy arabesque panels embrace natural light during the day and illumination from within at night.
Construction began in 1920, and from 1920 through 1921, caissons for the building were sunk down to the bedrock, a depth of 120 feet, and the foundation basement was completed. For the next 10 years, no further progress was made. This enabled the Baha'is to accumulate needed funds for the next stage of construction, and it gave engineers time to solve some of the many unprecedented construction problems. In 1930, work on the temple's superstructure began. Architect Louis Bourgeois consulted with John Early, an expert in ornamental concrete in the Washington, D.C. area, about constructing the dome from cast concrete panels mounted on a steel superstructure. To achieve Bourgeois' vision of the widest possible surface, Early experimented with white Portland cement combined with crushed quartz. The result is a glistening exterior that sparkles in the sunlight. The panels were sculpted, cast, and cleaned at the Early studios. Packaged Bridge and then shipped 700 miles on railroad flat cars to Wilmette. At the time, the building was considered the most elaborate concrete structure in the world, consuming thousands of workman hours. In June of 1932, the task of applying the ornamentation to the superstructure was started. And by January of 1943, the entire exterior, including the steps, was finished. During the Second World War years, no work on the temple was undertaken. Then, in November of 1947, work began on the interior, which was completed in 1952. Landscaping of the grounds began in April of that year and was completed by the temple's dedication in the spring of 1953.
Nine circular gardens surround the Baha'i house of worship and are an integral part of the sacred space, serving as outdoor rooms for prayer, meditation, and the appreciation of nature. The temple gardens are seasonally planted with flowers and foliage of various kinds, colors, and fragrances in both native and global species, each where will best thrive. A physical metaphor that reflects the beauty of unity in diversity.
Behold a beautiful garden full of flowers, shrubs, and trees. Each flower has a different charm, a peculiar beauty. Yet all these flowers spring from the self-same earth. The same sun shines upon them, and the same clouds give them rain. So it is with humanity. It is made up of many races, and its peoples are of different color. But they all come from the same God, and all are servants to Him.
Baha'i houses of worship all have 9 sides, 9 doors, and 9 gardens. The number 9, the highest single digit, represents unity, perfection, and completion. The building's majestic dome calls to mind God's grace sheltering all people. The symbol at the top of the dome is an arrangement of the Arabic words, Ya Baha'u'llah, a prayer or invocation meaning O glory of the all-glorious. The unity of the religious traditions is represented in the ornamentation on the pillars of the temple. Symbols include the Christian cross, the Star of David, the star and crescent moon of Islam, the hooked cross of Hindu, Buddhist, and ancient Native American traditions, and the 9-pointed star of the Baha'i faith. 9 inscriptions from the writings of Baha'u'llah are carved above the building's entrances and in the alcoves of the auditorium, attesting to the unity of religion and its power to transform the human character.
O rich ones on earth, the poor in your midst are my trust. Guard ye my trust.
Blessed is the spot.
Baha'is have no clergy, and sermons or lectures are not permitted in the auditorium. Devotional services include prayer, meditation, the reading of sacred scriptures of the Baha'i faith and other religions, and often music by soloists and a cappella choir. To Baha'is, worship means more than prayer and meditation. Baha'u'llah said that any work done in a spirit of service is a form of prayer.
The temple project took 50 years, continuing through 2 world wars and the Great Depression. The building was financed entirely by voluntary contributions from Baha'is around the world. More than 5,000 people gathered for dedication services as the Baha'i House of Worship was opened to the public in May 1953.
This house of worship, now opening wide its doors to peoples of all creeds, of all races, of all nations, and of all classes, is dedicated to three fundamental verities animating and underlying the Baha'i faith: the unity of God, the unity of His prophets, the unity of mankind.
The Baha'i House of Worship reflects a faith of optimism, freedom from prejudice, and service to humankind. It invites its visitors to experience the beauty and serenity of its gardens and interior spaces, to learn about and contemplate the interconnectedness of all people and all religions.
It reminds us of our tie to a just and loving Creator who shelters us all and progressively reveals the guidance that we need. It inspires our highest hopes of a united world and sustainable peace. As Baha'u'llah predicts,
Yet so it shall be. These fruitless strifes, these ruinous wars shall pass away, and the most great peace shall come.
The legacy of the 20th century is really the world recognizing that it is one.
At the start of the 1900s, countries were a lot more separated, both politically and otherwise. And because of many of the events that happened during that century, humans were a lot more connected.
If you just look at systems of communication and the internet, people can communicate with each other instantaneously from all over the world.
Now the challenge is, how can we spiritually be connected? And how can we catch up our spiritual selves to our material selves?
The message of Baha'u'llah, I think, what makes it so transformative is that it speaks in this day for the very first time of the true unity of the entire human race. In this period of transformation that we're in right now, the world is going from a state of infancy to a state of maturity.
As certain systems and institutions may start to disintegrate, other systems are being simultaneously created that represent forces of integration.
Baha'is are struggling every day in this process of integration to be conscious of the fact that everyone is a member of the human family, and that takes precedence over every other piece of our life. We have national identities and racial identities in the world today, but our truest identity is that we're all human. The spiritual identity, which calls for a complete reorganization of human relationships that the world has never seen before.
So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth.
Baha'u'llah, whose name means the glory of God, was born in Persia in 1817 and was renowned for his generosity, compassion, keen intelligence, and excellent character. In the middle of the 19th century, Baha'u'llah was summoned by God to reveal a new message to humanity, a new revelation from God, thereby ushering an era of universal peace. Baha'u'llah's teachings form the basis of the Baha'i faith, and it's a message of infinite hope for all humanity.
Baha'u'llah has brought this revelation that we are all members of one human family, and we're working towards this idea of universal peace, and that's really the foundation for the work that we're doing.
We don't have a faith that stands part and is meant just for Baha'is. Rather, our whole purpose is to serve humanity. And so we're constantly reaching out in the spirit of collaboration with others.
The Baha'i community offers various activities to unite the community, such as devotional gatherings for people of all different backgrounds to come together and pray, classes for children that focus on their spiritual education, groups for junior youth to be of service to their community, and then a series of courses for people who are 15 and up to have spiritual conversations and really reflect on our lives and build the capacity to be of service. From these activities stem different social action projects that would be appropriate for that community.
What the Baha'is are trying to do right now is to just really create community life in the places where we live. That involves just getting people together in different spaces. And one of those spaces is the devotional gathering.
We have devotionals about twice a month.
A lot of the people, they never had a gathering like when Baha'is have devotion. Different peoples, different backgrounds, and different religions.
We believe in opening our homes and our hearts.
This is the place where Baha'is and their friends are coming together to join in prayer, from which we realign our purposes and we gain that unseen energy that sustains all the different things we do in our community. The Spiritual Education of Children program seeks to try to help young children between 6 and 11 develop those qualities that they inherently possess through prayer, through memorizing quotes, and then they learn stories, they sing songs.
Being able to have the children class here in my community is really important. Most of the kids in my children class are from an immigrant family. So this children class is like a place where the kids can have fun together, learn from each other, and to inspire each other. The moment that really touched my heart is that every weekend I see them coming and being really excited to learn about anything and to do like arts and crafts and just like play with each other and seeing changes from the children. They will be motivated, they will be like singing a lot, they will be praying, and they will be really friendly to each other and they know how to treat each other.
The Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program is for those ages 11 to 14. They go through a series of stories about different junior youth across the world and examine different spiritual concepts such as hope versus despair and justice. And then they examine their own talents, their own interests, and think, what does the community need and how can we play a role in bettering our communities?
It's a conduit for them to do service in their communities, to further their education, and a way to socialize in a healthy environment. It's facilitated by an animator who helps draw forth the voices of the junior youth. It's their group. I realized sort of once I kind of just let them do their thing, they'll take it from there.
In order to offer these services, Baha'is and their friends are equipping themselves with these capacities to be able to offer programs like the Spiritual Education of Children, the Junior Spiritual Empowerment Program. And the way that we're doing this is through the Study Circle program.
The Study Circle is a group of people who are coming together and studying spiritual material and discussing about it, investigating the implications of those things on their lives.
What does it mean in my day-to-day life that let deeds, not words, be made? And how do I apply those beautiful ideals in the way that I interact with people and in the different services that I do?
Once we've been in a neighborhood working with the children and junior youth of that community, from these activities, of course, stem different social action projects that would be appropriate for that community.
These youth, they could identify the problems, so we're pulling together resources to accomplish, at first, small service projects, trash pickups, visiting the elders, and they gradually become more complex. After 4 years of doing service projects, it became a part of their nature to serve others.
This is the changeless faith of God, eternal in the past, eternal in the future.
Baha'u'llah teaches that there is one God, and that all the religions are part of one divinely revealed process, by which God makes his will and purpose known to humanity. Although we may differ in our concepts of God's nature, although we may pray in different languages and call God by different names, we are speaking about that same transcendent being.
This process of uniting humankind has begun, and there's no turning back. It's going to be long, it's going to take a lot of work, and there's going to be many challenges along the way, but we'll also grow, both individually and also collectively.
The idea that everybody has a part to play, no matter how large or small, is really important because it speaks to a consciousness that we are all connected to the same purpose.
And so that means on a daily basis, you're reflecting on, am I working towards the oneness of humanity? Am I seeing in the people around me, my brother, my sister? Am I reflecting on the teachings and writings of Baha'u'llah? If all of us are doing that, individually, our efforts become collective and change actually happens.
We can build a better world together, but it's going to take every single person seeing themselves as part of this collective whole and seeing what difference they can make.